Hey, Sunrise Culture. This is a chat-driven IRL podcast I do on the mornings that I have time to do it. You guys drive the conversation. I'm just here with you. All right, so imagine we're sitting on a college campus bench. That's our location today. No agenda, no script, just conversation. So drop whatever's on your mind in the chat, questions, ideas, things you've been thinking about this week. Well, we'll start wherever the room takes us. And while we're waiting for chatters, people hanging out, wanting to strike up a conversation on the college bench. Got something I've been thinking about this morning. So I saw a quote by Friedrich Nietzsche. And it really affected kind of the way I've been thinking about things. And what it did is it kind of brought up like a sort of a vision of like the old movie The Matrix from like 1999, where when the main character gets kind of pulled out of the Matrix, kind of gets like woken up or whatever. They make mention of this concept. They talk to this concept of like most people aren't ready to be woken up out of the Matrix, because if they do, their whole world implodes, right? Because that simulated reality is so heavily anchored in their mind, their soul, their emotions, their whole like ecosystem of being, that if you pull them out of that, they would literally implode. They would literally implode. So here's the quote. It's kind of the burden of insight, or the burden of awareness. It's by Friedrich Nietzsche. Seeing too much. It's like, he refers to, you start perceiving, like when you start becoming more aware, you start educating, you start learning more. You see these deeper, you see a more uncomfortable truths. You notice more about human nature and existence, and the idea is that a person sort of starts to become isolated. That's the price of awareness. That's the price of educating yourself. That's the price of learning how to think more deeply. Be more self-sufficient rhetorically and logically and mentally, emotionally, with your education, whatever. Because you can't relate to a world anymore that relies on seeing less or knowing less. It's like Neo coming out of the Matrix. There's just not, it feels like you don't fit in anywhere. And I don't mean that in like an antisocial way. It's just the fact that you perceive more, you understand more, you see more, you've learned more. And so it starts to become more difficult to associate with people that aren't as aware or open-minded, or as educated. And this isn't about like an elitism, like an academic elitism, or, I'm smarter than you. And I'm sure with Friedrich Nietzsche, there probably was some of that. In fact, I know there was a lot of that, but this is more in practical terms of, are you ready to pay the price for awareness? The content I make on Sunrise Culture, and there's so many great philosophical channels and other creators on YouTube, Instagram, wherever, Christian, human philosophy, like any one of those, like lifestyle, like, hey, thinkers, basically, right? There's so many of those that are out there. There's few that are really good. The ones I try to subscribe to, I'm really kind of strict about who I subscribe to and how I follow, but who I take in content from, and who I learn from, and who I absorb from. But what we're asking people to do is to choose more awareness, and to choose a sense of isolation, to pay the price of awareness. Think about this. If you look at the movie The Matrix, I mean, they pull these people out of the system, and it's this perfectly curated, beautiful system. It's a normal life, but it's like this. It's a world that makes sense, right? and then you get pulled out, and that's what we ultimately think we want. We want to know what happens behind the system. We want to know the truth. We want to know what's really going on. This goes so far beyond like conspiracy theories and all that kind of redacted documents and stuff. Like, we truly want to know, like, there's this meaning behind things, like what's really going on behind the curtains. Where's the power centers and control centers? What's the real truth? So we have this ideal that we want to know the truth. We want to know the truth. That's a human ideal we all aspire to, but many of us don't sit through long enough with the idea of the ideal of truth to understand that it's not just let's know the truth and then the world would be perfect. There's really a lot of ugly and darkness and danger on the other side of that, right? Because when you get pulled out of that matrix, to use that movie reference, you see this world is completely apocalyptic, completely destroyed, but the one consolation is you're free, right? So you're in the real world, you're free, you know what's really going on behind the system. That's an interesting it's an interesting thing to think through. Because it's not just I want to know more, or I want to know what's going on, so we can, for whatever reasons, I don't know, like stop the bad people from doing whatever they're doing, like whatever the motivations would be to know more truth, whatever those are. There's a deep responsibility that comes with that, and there's a sacrifice that comes with knowing the truth. There's a sacrifice that comes with knowing the truth, and one of them, socially, is just really not fitting in as many places, if anywhere, truly. Not that that's not a bad thing, necessarily. That's not really a bad thing. It's not about being antisocial or smarter than people and like, well, I don't associate with people because they're not as aware or unlocked as me or like educated as me. That's not it. It's more of a you have to be okay with being okay by yourself. Even in a room full of people, even among groups of people that you love dearly and that love you, understanding that there is an isolation that is inherent with knowing deeper truths or seeking, even just being a seeker, like looking for truth. There is an isolation because many people, the majority of people, will spend their entire lives totally plugged into a system, totally absorbed in whatever they're consuming. Consume, don't ask questions. Right? Consume, don't ask questions. Get hyped for next product, consume. And that's kind of the 4-part cycle. That's kind of the 4-part cycle. And that's what most people are going to be stuck in their whole lives. So when you start to see kind of above and around and beyond that, that does sort of produce not a narcissism, not an elitism, but that does sort of tend to produce a bit of a loneliness or a bit of an isolation. Just because most people, I mean, look, it's a great reference, the film The Matrix, that there's only one Neo. There's a very select few human beings that are unplugged from the system, and the mass majority of them are still in the system. It's just, it is the way it is. So do you value wanting to know more? That hopefully it doesn't scare you. To me, it doesn't. That's what I've been thinking about. Are you willing to make that sacrifice for more education, better knowledge, right? I was reading an interesting piece from the Heterodoxy Academy, co-founded by Jonathan Haidt. He's one of the Haidt, H-I-A-I-D-T, Jonathan Haidt. He's one of the guys that, he's the co-founder of Heterodoxy Academy. He's also one of the guys that wrote The Coddling of the American Mind. Some other great works. A guy like a Jordan B. Peterson really speaks highly of Jonathan Haidt. He's a guy to definitely pay attention to and follow. But I wrote an essay, as basically an entrance gateway. I wrote an essay stating my intent to join the Heterodoxy Academy, and I got in, it's awesome. I put that on my resume for sure. I gotta start splashing that out there more in my content, actually. But what you've done when you've joined that organization is that you've committed to the idea that there are differing ideas out there. Whether they're right or wrong doesn't matter. It's open and free discourse to it. It's the free exchange of ideas. And it does two things. It does, well, I guess three things. Number one, it can, on the positive side for you, it can reinforce what you believe because you've tested it against something, right? So you're not echo chambering it. You're not just reinforcing it by adding more to it. You're not just building the tower higher, but never testing it against weathering or against deterioration or against attack, right? So it's not just adding to the strength of your position by adding more on top of it. It's adding to the strength of your position by testing it, refining it, testing it against something that's trying to tear it down. So number one, it helps build you up. Number two, it gives you the opportunity to discover more, and pull from other sources that may be outside your universe or your sphere of influence or your orbit, right? So that number two, it gives you opportunity to learn and know more and to adopt more things into your philosophy or your understanding of things. And then number three, it gives you a chance to change your mind, and that's not a sign of weakness. Changing your mind is not a sign of weakness. Changing your mind is actually a sign of strength if it's done because you've done it through a system of trial and retrial and refining and reforming and arguing and battling and testing up against other sources. It gives you an opportunity to learn, to grow. So Heterodox Academy is definitely worth it. But I was reading an article by their latest edition. They do a quarterly magazine called Inquisitive. It's really cool, really awesome publication. But it's all about Eve. The title was Eve, and it was sent out in December, so it makes sense for like Christmas Eve and all. It's all the great marketing, right? For the people that are smart enough to do that, that's fascinating. But it's all about Eve. And the first piece, I didn't necessarily agree with it theologically, but it insisted on the idea that Eve shouldn't, from the Bible, right? So look her up if you haven't. Adam's partner Eve from early Genesis. You can look it up even if you're not a believer, not a Christian. You can use it as a ideological or a educational text, philosophical text. Regardless, I didn't agree with it theologically, but it brought an interesting statement of Eve was willing to go out and find forbidden knowledge, to ask questions of the status quo and all this kind of stuff. And that is, it obviously challenged me a little bit from a theological perspective to be able to read through this and try to gather what wisdom I could or knowledge I could, or at least test my foundations and my structures against it. It's a challenge, but you have to be willing to be uncomfortable to do that. And honestly, by me reading through that and being willing to read through something that I didn't agree with theologically, to find different facets of, or little diamonds of wisdom or thought or something that inspired me to test my ideals, whatever. It actually was a case in point of what the article was talking about. It's a case in point of what the article was talking about. And that goes back to the idea of seeking more knowledge. Do you want to really know more? Do you want to learn more? All right, at the end of the day, whether you think you are or not, if you divorce your mind from the ideals and sort of what you feel like should be the answer and really come down to it, analytically decide, do you really want to pay the price for more awareness, for more knowledge, to know more, right? For reading, exploring ideas. There's a lot of forbidden territory. There's a lot of scary territory out there in ideas. When you divorce yourself from just echo chambering and dogma, there's a lot that can be scary out there. There's really a lot. I don't know if scary is the word. Scary is one of the facets, but there's a depth out there of human knowledge and human ideas, human philosophy, human thinking. From a theological perspective, that's through the Father God, or just from the human perspective about kind of the world and existence as humans and who we are. I mean, those are two super broad categories, but to give you an idea of like, this is the grand scope, like the massive scope of things. So that's kind of what I've been thinking through lately. And I've been wanting to use these live streams kind of as a place for people to come back and chill, kind of escape the noise. Hopefully they're thumbing through live feeds. It's a place for them to kind of back up from all the hustle of song and dance culture, production culture, entertainment, consumption culture, content creation culture. But also, instead of just waiting for folks to check, sometimes you just want to come in and escape the noise. That's what this is for. If we're sitting like today, the imagination is like, hey, imagine we're sitting on a college campus bench. Well, maybe we're just sitting on a college campus bench. It's warming up a little bit outside. There's some snow on the ground, but it's nice hoodie and a toboggan or a beanie or whatever, and you're good. What if we're just hanging out, kind of just like people watching, not saying much, not conversing? That's fine. So I also want to use this space to kind of like talk through my ideas in a more raw, completely unscripted, not even non-bullet pointed. It's extremely, it's like a fire hose. It's extremely out there. But I've got other content that's more semi-structured and more structured, more scripted, where I use my writing to develop ideas and then deliver those in a like cinematic long form video or shorts or a written article or like the shorter field notes that I'm going to be producing on Substack or like whatever. This is much more of you're seeing my thinking in action. You're seeing it literally live, me thinking through ideas. I think it'd be a cool way to kind of showcase what not a lot of other creators are showcasing, because you see so much polished content out there. Even the raw, authentic, genuine content, it's still, you just see the finished product. So that's kind of what I've been thinking through. I got a little bit of a late start because of some meetings this morning. I can only do this when I'm on break, right? There have been live streams where I've been working through work, and I can keep track of my tasks and assignments and make sure I can obviously say if I'm sitting in front of a live stream camera, yes, I'm still getting work done while I'm on the clock. There is that. But all my emails are answered and other sort of like sidebar tasks that I could do while live streaming. So I really can't do anything work-wise. So this is a lunch break for me. So I'm going to go finish the last half of my lunch break actually eating food, believe it or not. So I'm not starving throughout the day. But I know it was a shorter one and it was a later one. But some of these will be archived if I'm doing more of these deep dive thoughts. Some of these they'll go live and you won't see them again because it's just a live chat and there's just no reason to replay it, because who would watch that? So having said that, man, I appreciate you, Sunrise Culture, and anyone that swings through on the archive. Listen to the thought process happening in real time, right? And that one last thing to say, this kind of leans into something totally different, but I was tempted to say this, so I'm not going to say it. Rambling, right? If you want to go back and watch me rambling, man, don't say that. Don't, if you have something to say, don't call it your spiel. Don't add the word little in front of it. Yeah, I have my little talk, or I have, have little things to say, or I have my little spiel, or give your spiel or whatever. I mean, you hear so many people say that, especially where I work in higher education when talking about giving like presentations and stuff. That demeans the value of it. So be careful how you address it. Be careful how you word what you are and the thoughts that you express, right? So if you enjoyed watching me develop ideas and talk out ideas in real time, totally raw and unrehearsed, I hope you enjoy it. Hit the subscribe button, hit the like button. More of this kind of content to come alongside the more structured content, and the more polished, I guess, more the authentic stuff that's written out, more planned, more bullet pointed or scripted, whatever it is. But I hope you enjoy it. Looking forward to doing more of these. And yeah, well, I guess you see you on the next one. I'm going to go get some lunch and we'll call it a day right there.